Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button, so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks. My name is Cassidy Lane. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, a place where family is supposed to mean everything. But that night, standing in our living room, my hands shaking, I realized my family had already chosen sides, and it wasn't mine. You seriously spent my college savings on a dog? I shouted, my voice breaking, tears burning my eyes. My sister smirked, clutching her golden retriever like it was some royal crown jewel. Don't be so dramatic, Cass. He's family. You'll survive. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't their daughter anymore. My voice rose before I could stop it. Survive? You emptied my account, Mom. That was my future, my ticket out of here, gone. Also, she could buy some purebred mutt and a diamond collar. Dad didn't even look at me. He just sipped his coffee, eyes fixed on the morning news like none of this mattered. Cassidy, lower your voice. You're being ungrateful. That dog's part of this family now, and we all need to adjust. Ungrateful. The word cut deeper than a knife. I worked every weekend since I was 16, double shifts at the diner, cleaning motel rooms after school, just to save enough to pay for community college. My parents never helped. Not once. And now? All those years of scrubbing plates and wiping strangers' bathrooms flushed away so my sister could parade around with a designer dog in her designer bag. You didn't even ask me, I said, my voice trembling. You just took it. You didn't think twice about what that money meant to me. Mom folded her arms like she'd already won the argument. We didn't take it. We used it for the family. Bella needed the dog for emotional support. You know how hard things have been for her since she broke up with Dylan. I stared at Bella, her fake pout barely hiding her smug little smile. An emotional support animal? She's the one who broke up with him because he wouldn't buy her a car. And now you're rewarding her? Cassidy, enough. Dad slammed his mug down, coffee spilling onto the table. Your sister is fragile right now, and you're making this about you. Stop acting like some victim. I felt my face flush. Some victim? I am the victim. You took my money, you chose her over me, and you expect me to just smile and say thank you? Bella rolled her eyes. Honestly, Cass, maybe if you weren't so obsessed with leaving this town, Mom and Dad would actually want to help you. But you've been nothing but distant lately. It's not our fault you don't fit in here. Her words hit like a punch to the gut. That's when I realized, this wasn't just about the dog. It was about control. My parents didn't want me to leave. They didn't want me to grow into someone who didn't need them. I stepped closer to Bella, my voice low but shaking. You can keep the dog. You can keep the money. But you will remember this moment. One day, when you think you've won, you'll realize what you really lost. Mom scoffed. Are you threatening your own family now? No, I said, grabbing my coat from the chair. I'm promising you something. People remember the day they're betrayed, and I'll make sure you remember this one for the rest of your lives. As I walked toward the door, Bella's voice followed me like nails on glass. Don't slam it on your way out, Cass. Wouldn't want to scare the dog. I paused, hand on the knob, heart pounding so hard I could hear it. For a split second, I almost turned around, almost screamed every ugly truth I'd been swallowing for years. But I didn't. I looked over my shoulder, smiled, and said the words that would haunt them later. You've already scared away your real daughter. Then I walked out into the cold night air, the sound of Bella's laugh echoing behind me. What they didn't know was that before leaving, I'd been writing something. For weeks, I'd been jotting down every slight, every insult, every moment they'd chosen her over me. Not out of bitterness, out of clarity. And that night, when the door shut behind me for the last time, I decided exactly how they'd read it. But before that letter, there'd be silence. Silence long enough for them to think I'd vanished from their lives for good. Long enough for them to start missing me. Long enough for them to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they'd gone too far. Because the truth is, when people lose you slowly, they don't notice. But when you're gone in an instant, they feel the absence like a sudden drop into freezing water. And I wanted them to feel every second of it. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't take anything but my phone and the cash I had in my pocket. Every photo, every childhood memento, every trace of me, I left it behind, like a ghost they wouldn't be able to erase no matter how much they tried. The next morning, they'd come downstairs expecting me at the kitchen table, maybe still angry, maybe sulking. But instead, they'd find the silence. And soon after, they'd find the letter. The kind of letter you don't just read, you hear it in your head every time you try to fall asleep. The kind of letter that rewrites everything you thought you knew about your own family. The kind of letter that says, without a single curse word or shout, you chose, and you'll live with it. The morning light spilled into that kitchen like nothing had happened, but something had. Mom moved around making coffee, humming softly, probably thinking I'd come slinking back downstairs ready to apologize. Dad sat at the table reading his paper, Bella scrolling through her phone, that ridiculous golden retriever curled up at her feet. They didn't notice my chair was empty at first. It wasn't until Mom poured an extra cup of coffee and set it in front of the vacant spot that her humming stopped. She glanced toward the hallway. Cass? Breakfast's ready. Silence. Bella barely looked up. She's probably upstairs crying. Mom tried again, louder this time. Cassidy. Still nothing. Dad sighed, got up, and walked to my room. A moment later, I heard the creak of my bedroom door in my mind like I was there watching. He probably expected me under the covers, sulking. Instead, the bed was perfectly made. The closet door hung open, but not because I'd packed. My things were still there. Every sweater, every pair of shoes. But there was one thing on the pillow. A folded envelope. My name written on the front in thick black ink. Dad brought it back into the kitchen, his brow furrowed. She's gone. Bella laughed. Gone where? She doesn't even have gas money. Mom took the envelope from him like it might burn her fingers. She slid a nail under the seal, pulled out the pages, and began to read. I'd started it simply. You've always told me family comes first. I believed you for 18 years. But now I see, family only comes first when it's Bella. Her hands trembled as she read on, the words I'd been holding in for years spilling out in my voice even though I wasn't there. When I got my first job at the diner, you told me to save every dollar for school. I did. While Bella went shopping, I worked. While she slept in, I worked. While she was too tired to help with chores, I cleaned this house top to bottom. And somehow, you convinced me it was all worth it because one day, you'd be proud of me. One day, you'd see I was the responsible one. But now I know the truth, you weren't waiting to be proud. You were waiting for me to give up everything for someone else. Bella smirked like it was all some dramatic performance. Oh, please. She's just jealous. But Dad wasn't smiling anymore. He leaned in as Mom kept reading. You didn't just take my savings, you took my trust. You told me I was part of this family, but last night, you made it clear, I'm just the extra. The filler. The one who's supposed to understand when you choose her over me every single time. Well, you've made your choice. And now, I'm making mine. Bella rolled her eyes. What does that even mean? Mom's voice cracked on the next line. I won't be here when you realize what you lost. And when you do, I hope you remember the sound of the front door closing. That was the sound of your real daughter walking away. Silence filled the room. Even the dogs seemed to shift uncomfortably. At their feet. Dad finally asked, where would she even go? Bella shrugged. Nowhere important. But Mom didn't answer. She just kept staring at that last sentence, like if she looked long enough, I'd somehow walk back through the door. I didn't. Because I was already halfway out of Charleston, with nothing but the clothes on my back, the wind in my face, and the knowledge that for the first time in my life, I wasn't coming back unless it was on my terms. Days passed. At first, they thought it was a bluff. I knew they did. Bella probably paraded that dog around the neighborhood like nothing had happened. Mom likely told herself I'd cool off and come back when I ran out of options. But then the first call came. It was from the diner where I worked weekends. We were hoping Cassidy could cover an extra shift, my boss said. Mom had to tell them I wasn't living there anymore. She said it casually, like she wasn't admitting she'd lost her own child. But word spreads fast in Charleston. Within hours, the whispers started. You hear about the Lane girl? Yeah, the parents picked the younger one over her. Whole town's talking about it. By the end of the week, it wasn't just gossip, it was judgment. At church, people stopped asking me how I was doing and started asking my parents why I wasn't sitting beside them. The pastor even pulled them aside after service, voice low but firm. Family is a gift, and you've been given 2 daughters. I hope you realize that before it's too late. Bella hated the attention, but not for the right reasons. Mom, people are making me out to be the bad guy. Do something. Mom's patience cracked. You could start by not smirking every time her name comes up. And then there was the practical side. Without me there, chores piled up. Laundry sat in baskets. Dishes stacked in the sink. Groceries didn't magically appear in the fridge. Dad had to mow the lawn himself for the first time in years. The dog? Bella got bored of walking it within days, so Mom had to take over. They'd never admit it, but my absence left a hole they couldn't fill. Not just in the work I did, but in the way the house felt, emptier, colder. The breaking point came one night at dinner. Bella was scrolling on her phone, the dog barking at nothing, when Mom slammed her fork down. I can't do this anymore. I miss her. I miss Cassidy. Dad stayed quiet, but I knew him, silence meant guilt was eating him alive. Bella groaned. She's being dramatic to teach us a lesson. She'll be back. But Mom shook her head, tears in her eyes. No, Bella. She's gone because we pushed her out. And I don't know if she's ever coming back. It was 2 weeks before they found me. I'd been staying in a tiny room above the bakery where Mrs. Hargrove let me sweep floors in exchange for rent. The place smelled like fresh bread every morning, and the windows rattled when trucks passed by. It wasn't much, but it was mine. That night, I was closing up, wiping down the counter, when the bell above the door jingled. I didn't look up at first, I thought it was a customer who'd lost track of the time. Then I heard Mom's voice. Cassidy. I froze, rag in hand, my stomach tightening like a fist. Slowly, I turned. Mom stood there, pale and tired, her hands twisting together. Behind her was Dad, looking older than I'd ever seen him. And at the door, holding the leash to that same golden retriever, was Bella. For a second, none of us spoke. The silence was heavier than the night outside. We've been worried about you, Dad said finally. I let out a short laugh. Really? That's funny. I thought you'd be too busy walking the dog I paid for. Bella sighed. Cass, can you stop making this about money? It's not a big deal. I stepped forward, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. Not a big deal? You took my future and handed it to you like a gift basket. And now you think you can just show up here and what? Get me to come home because you feel awkward at church? Mom's eyes filled with tears. It's not about church. It's about us. We made a mistake. No, I said, my voice firm. You made a choice. And you don't get to erase it just because it's inconvenient now. Dad looked down at the floor. We read that letter every night. I keep hearing that line, about the sound of the door closing. I hate that I made you feel like you weren't our daughter. Bella shifted uncomfortably but stayed quiet for once. I crossed my arms. And yet, I still don't hear an apology for stealing from me. Mom stepped closer. We'll pay it back. Every cent. But please, come home. We miss you. I looked at them, really looked, Mom's trembling hands, Dad's hunched shoulders, even Bella's forced stillness. And I realized something. They weren't here just because they missed me. They were here because they finally understood what it felt like to be left behind. And maybe, that was the point all along. I stood there, hands resting on the counter, letting the silence breathe. For the first time in my life, they were the ones waiting on me. Not for chores. Not for favors. But for my decision. I could feel the weight of their eyes, Mom's watery stare, Dad's guilty slump, Bella's uneasy shifting. Part of me wanted to let them squirm, to walk past them without another word, to prove that I could disappear just as easily as they had dismissed me. But another part, the part that had once believed family meant something, wanted closure. You want me to come home? I finally asked. Then you need to understand something. I didn't leave because of the dog. I left because of a lifetime of being told I was second place. I left because every sacrifice I made was invisible until it was convenient for you to notice. I left because love, in this house, always had conditions. Dad looked up, his voice rough. You're right. We treated you like you'd always be there no matter how we acted. We took advantage of you. And I'm sorry. Mom's chin quivered. I am too, Cass. We thought you were strong enough to handle anything, so we didn't protect you the way we should have. We gave Bella more because we thought you didn't need as much. We were wrong. I looked at Bella. She shifted her weight and avoided my eyes. Fine, she muttered. I'm sorry too. You saved up for years, and I got to spend it. It wasn't fair. I didn't know if she meant it or if it was just something to get through the moment. But maybe that didn't matter. Maybe what mattered was that the words had been spoken. I took a deep breath. You can't pay back years. You can't undo them either. But you can decide what you do from here. If I come home, things change. No more choosing favorites. No more treating me like I'm a backup plan. You treat me like I matter, or I'm gone for good. Mom nodded quickly. Dad followed, slower, but still nodding. Bella didn't speak, but she didn't roll her eyes either. That was as close to progress as I was going to get. I grabbed my jacket from the hook, walking past them toward the door. All right, I said softly. Let's go home. As we stepped out into the night, I thought about the letter still sitting on their kitchen table. I knew they'd keep it. And every time they saw it, I hoped they'd remember, love is a choice you make every day, and the wrong choice can cost you the people who love you most. When I walked back into that house, everything looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. The walls didn't seem as heavy, the air didn't feel as cold. Maybe it was because I wasn't carrying the same weight anymore. I wasn't the quiet girl in the corner waiting to be noticed. I was someone who had left, someone who had been missed, someone whose worth could no longer be denied. The dog still had its diamond collar, Bella still had her smirk on bad days, and my parents still had their flaws. But there was something new, too, small, but real. The next time I needed help, they offered it without being asked. The next time Bella demanded something, they didn't automatically give it to her. And the next time I sat down at the dinner table, my dad looked at me first before speaking. It wasn't perfection, but it was a start. Sometimes, people don't realize the value of what they have until they feel the emptiness of losing it. And sometimes, the only way to teach that lesson is to walk away, not to punish them, but to protect yourself. Because you can't be the one holding a family together if the family keeps pulling you apart. I learned something in those weeks I was gone. Your worth doesn't come from how much you give to others, but from how much you believe in yourself, even when others don't. And when you set boundaries, when you make people earn a place in your life, you give them the chance to treat you right, or lose you forever. So if you've ever been the extra in your own family, remember this: you are not replaceable, you are not second place, and you do not have to stay where you are not valued. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is close the door and make them hear it shut. Because that sound? That's the sound of self-respect.